Mr. B uncensored on the sexes. Whether there are no sex, men can be women, women can be men, boys can be girls, girls can be boys. You can be something in between. Uh, Let me start with the basics. Life has one purpose: to go forth and propagate. In order to do that, nature, God, I'm not going to get into the argument, created what we refer to as two sexes in species. Okay, so the human species has a male and a female, just as all other species do, from plants, animals, etc. The male of the species is the one that usually carries what is referred to as the starter of the process. Okay, it causes the other side to start to gestate and actually live. So it takes both sides. You can't have one without the other and produce life. So, with that said, in the human species, the male at birth has an appendage that the female does not have. It is apparent from birth. Some of the other physiological aspects of the female, which serve different purposes that the male also have, are not prominent. We'll talk about those in a second. The male of the species, the appendage is between the legs, and at a very, very, very young age, little boys are confused by this appendage. Everybody wonders why little boys are always pulling on it, because it's this soft little dangly thing. And as we get older, we start to realize this soft little dangly thing has a mind of its own. It does what the hell it wants. And so we start concentrating on controlling this other entity that we later find out is in us. As we grow, this little thing starts to become friend and foe. It will embarrass us at the worst of times and express certain emotions that we have, whether we want them expressed or not. It's physical excitement, or the necessity to pee really bad. Either way, it is something that is very different that young females do not have to deal with emotionally or mentally. Later on, that friend becomes the tool by which the male of the species will use to help propagate itself. The male is a much more physical dominant in the human species. That's not always true. But in the human species, the male is the one that has the bigger bone structure, the more dense mass, muscular structure, the tendons that are intended to withstand more stress and weight and usage in certain ways. So we are the what is referred to as dominantly physical side of the species. Females at a young age, I can't even tell you what y'all go through. I have no clue. I am obviously a male. And saying that, I can only convey that I do know that at some point in time, they aren't so much as a friend or foe of the female like the male's member becomes to the man. The male often refers to their member by name. They will have a little name, Billy, shut up. I don't know what they call him, Willie, my Wally, my Wanger, whatever. Doesn't matter. They always refer to it as if it were a person, because it has a mind of its own in our brains, because it has a mind of its own. and we are in control of it. So, anyway, back to the female. The female's reproductive organ is more hidden. Little boys always wonder when they see little girls, wow, what's wrong with you? What happened? We think of them as being injured. We don't understand. If a little boy and a little girl, 3, 4, 5, is playing together in a swimming pond somewhere and neither one of them is wearing a top, in the country, nobody thinks nothing about it because there's no difference up top. So the little boy and the little girl are usually just wearing bottoms or something because the upper portion of the females, they're not really what we refer to as direct reproductive organs, but they are a part of the reproduction process because they're intended to nurse the young. So as they get older, these breasts, as the males call them, start to grow and develop so that they have the ability to produce milk. Now, men have them too. Dogs, male and female, have like 6 of them. Less noticeable on the male because they never develop, just as in our species. Okay, so anyway, theirs will start to grow, and for some males, the visuality of that growth excites us. So that's about the time that our friend starts to choose when it wants to be our friend and when it doesn't. And when it doesn't want to be our friend, it can embarrass us at the most inopportune times, regardless of what's up here. So, with that said, males get stimulated different than females. Now, that is a physical stimulation. It's what we refer to as a fellatio relationship. Something physical happens, and we have an emotional response to it. No one could calm me like my mother could by simply taking her finger and wiping off a tear from my young face. Just saying, I loved my mother dearly, but not as I loved my wife. My wife, if she were to wipe a tear from my face in the same fashion. I also had very strong emotions, but not like the ones I had with my mother. So, physical contact affects everybody differently, male and female. And for that reason, we have what are referred to as different sexual urges, orientations, desires. I'm not going to get into that debate. You see, male and female has absolutely nothing to do with who you are, what you do, what excites you physically. I'm not going to get into the debate of whether you have control over what your ultimate desires are. Okay? You do have choice as to whether you pursue them. That is never an argument. Because even as the male learns at a very early age, okay, and I won't say earlier than the females, I don't know. I just know that the males learn at a very early age. It may have a mind of its own. My body is going to react as my body reacts. It is flesh. But my spirit, my character, my soul, who I am, however you want to define it, is defined by the decisions that I make. Men should not be in women's locker rooms, and women should not be in men's. Men should not compete against women in a sport where there's a physical dominance that can cause injury or ensure victory. Doesn't matter what your heart is, what your head is, what your body is. They're different. So when we talk about the body, let's stay with the physical, because that's what it is. And let's understand, boys are boys, girls are girls, men are men, women are women. And when we make decisions concerning what the body is required to do, or other things, let's keep that in mind and nothing else. Mr. B on the sexes.